everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cafecito con LMSA. I am your host for the day, Mariana, and today we're going to be talking about the toxic pre-health culture. So, cheers. My name is Mariana. I am a public health major, and I am on the pre-med track.
My name is Melanie. I'm also a public health major, and I'm also on the pre-med track.
And my name is Sofia, and I graduated in May with my bachelor's in APK, and now I'm applying to PA school.
Yay, okay. So we're going to move on to the definition just so we have a generalized idea of what is the toxic pre-health culture. So the toxic pre-health culture is an environment where extreme competition, perfectionism, and overwork are normalized and glorified. It pressures students to chase credentials at the expense of mental health, discourages collaboration and authenticity, and often marginalizes those who don't fit a narrow mold of the ideal future health professional. So with that in mind, I have the first question for you guys. When did you realize that the pre-health culture was toxic, or did you always know?
I don't think I always knew. I think that I found out more like when I got here and I saw how competitive everything was and how many organizations there were. And I kind of just saw that maybe not everyone was wanting me to succeed. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I definitely always knew. I low-key heard about it before I got to college, but I thought it was fake. Because I was just I don't know, why would you not want to collaborate and uplift each other? But there's definitely some people, unfortunately, I think in any field, that are going to prey on your downfall in hopes that it will lift them up somehow, even though that's not how things work. So I think you definitely sort of get that wake-up call the further along in your pre-health journey that you get.
Right. See, because for me, I feel I actually have a pretty crazy story about this. Because I had no idea that the pre-health culture was like this at all. I thought these are people that want to help people. You'd expect that they'd also want to help their peers. So I remember my freshman fall, I went to a research expo just to experience what it is, the research that's happening at this university and things like that. And I was walking around, whatever, looking at the posters, and there was this one cool presentation or whatever. And I was talking to I'm assuming who was the PI of the project. I don't know. But I was just explaining to her that I'm interested. I want to get involved in research and things like that. And she's like, yeah, if you're interested, just write down your email here. So I'm in the process of writing down my email, my UFID, things like that. And this other guy comes up to me or to the stand, but he's right next to me. And she gives him the whole spiel of what the research is, things like that or whatever. And at the end, she's like, do you have any questions for me? And he's like, yeah, what would make a good applicant to your lab stand out? And she's like, oh, that's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet. And it's only me, him, and this PI that are here right now. And he's like, oh, really? That's a good question? Well, then maybe just email it to me so that other people can't hear. And I just remember being what the heck? Because research expos, you can network there, but I feel they're not major networking opportunities. And even if they were, relax, I'm literally 18. I just got out of high school. You are beefing with a high schooler right now. Relax. It was September, of my freshman fall. I was a high schooler. I was literally 18 years old.
Yeah, that's really strange.
Right?
So weird. Really weird.
So yeah, ever since that moment, I was like, do I have to keep my guard up around you this?
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared.
I think there's definitely people out there that think that your success is somehow their failure.
Yeah.
And I can get into this a lot later. But yeah, I think that's just a great example of gatekeeping as an aspect of toxic pre-health culture for sure.
For sure.
Alrighty. So my next question is, why do you think the toxic pre-health culture is common?
I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that becoming a health professional is nearly impossible, being honed into people from a young age. I remember in high school when I told people I wanted to go into healthcare, and I wasn't necessarily sure that I wanted to be a doctor, but I was like, oh, I might be a doctor, I might be a PA. People would always be like, that's really hard. That's really hard, it's really competitive. So I think that just being drilled into people all of the time is well, if it's really competitive, then I need to do something to stay on top. And that comes with, unfortunately, preying on other people's downfall, or even setting yourself up for failure in a really ironic way, overworking yourself, burning out, depriving yourself of things that you enjoy because you think that's the correct way to go about the pre-health process.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think another big part of it is even once you decide okay, I want to try this pre-health thing, you get into like all these organizations and they're all super competitive to get into. Like it's hard to get into like a job at like a hospital as a CNA. It's hard to volunteer at clinics, and so I think that also just kind of starts to foster that, like, even though we're not applying yet, like all these other involvements are super competitive to get into. So I think that just generally fosters that. What did you say? Like, my success is your failure or something like that?
Your success is my failure.
Yeah.
Opposite, it's okay. Yeah, it definitely, and I think that's like slightly unique to larger universities, especially at UF, us having such a large pre-health population here. Like, you're just surrounded by it. Like, you actually can't escape it. Like, if you meet somebody, there's a decent chance that they have the same or similar goals that you do, and that there's a lot of comparison that comes with that. Like, every time I meet somebody and they have 3 years of research experience and I still haven't started in my lab, I'm like, oh, that's pretty rough. But sometimes you meet people and they're like, and you tell them, oh, I don't have research yet, and they're like, oh, email my PI, we have a spot. And that's the opposite of toxic pre-health culture, and I love that.
Yeah,
So.
I think like people have different perspectives on it too. I think like some people see it as like, okay, there's only so many spots for this organization, so many spots for this one, so many spots in this school, and like they see it as such a competitive like thing, while others, like you said, are always being like, oh, like I know of something, maybe we can go to this together, and like the one that's like trying to help people ends up being the more successful one. So
I agree. Okay, so moving on to my next question. We talked a little bit about how this like suffering is often glorified in the pre-health circle. So can we kind of talk about why we think we glorify those like all-nighters and we're being busy from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. kind of lifestyle? Why do we think that is?
I think in like pre-professional spaces, there's this undertone of like, no matter how hard you're working, there's always somebody that's working harder. So I think people glorify this suffering in a way to sort of lift themselves up as like, I'm working really hard. Like, I'm one of the top workers in a sense. Because like, I don't think it's a flex not to sleep. But at the same time, when I was taking orgo, I'd be like, oh, I only got 3 hours of sleep. But I was like, that's not good.
Like, no, but then
I think that they're trying to like convince themselves that like they're putting in so much work. So like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like they're being like, oh, I didn't do this, like, so I'm working as hard as I can.
Yeah, like.
But even then, we're like, you'll be like, oh, I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. There's gonna be one person being like, I'm on my third all-nighter.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Yeah,
it's really like the suffering Olympics. Like,
yeah, or like, oh, I'm taking this one hard class. Oh, well, I'm taking this one,
yes.
all at the same time.
You're in
like,
physics 1, I'm in physics 2. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm taking that next semester.
yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. There is
For
definitely
sure.
like a suffering Olympics going on. I think it comes down to like, you're working hard, but I'm working harder. Like, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Or it's, I think, again, it's ingrained in us that suffering is like almost a necessary part of this process in order to be successful in it. So it's maybe like, the more I suffer, the better I'll do. Like, we hear stories of residents working like 100 hours a week and not sleeping. So it's kind of like putting yourself in that position of like, the more I do, the better I'll be. But realistically, sleeping 8 hours is probably going to result in a better exam score than not sleeping at all. So.
And I feel like if you learn to balance your things like correctly, you will not suffer as much as other people do. Because I think that like that was like really important to me, where I did not want to suffer like that, and I really didn't. At the end of it, I really learned how to time manage myself, and I didn't really end up suffering that badly, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I also think people like the pre-health gunners that their whole life is like this process, almost look down on people who have a work-life balance.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Which is so strange.
I saw that all the time. I saw people like, when I would tell them that I'm pre-health, they'd be like, no you're not, because I saw you doing this and this, and I like, you weren't studying that one night, so like you can't be pre-health. I saw that all the time, and it gave me huge imposter syndrome at first, because like I was also surrounded by friends who weren't pre-health at the beginning of my college career, or like, I don't know. And I was like surrounded by people who weren't pre-health, so when I was, and they were all saying like, there's no way you're pre-health, like, I was like, oh my gosh, am I not pre-health? Like, what's going on?
Maybe they're right.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, am I supposed to be here? But no, I think that like it was good for my mental health to find that balance.
Yes.
And yeah, if I was able to do it, anyone can do it.
True.
Right, like next episode to come, how to balance
Yes.
life being pre-health.
And there's a lot of ways. But yeah, I think that, like, looking down on people or almost thinking that people are undeserving of going into healthcare unless they suffer is, like, really weird. Like, I saw a TikTok on my page the other day that was, like, things I do as a type B pre-med that would send people into a coma.
that was literally me.
Yes. Yes. And he was like, if there's a function, I'm there. Like, I don't have a Google Calendar, or, like, I only study, like, X amount of days before an exam or something like that. I don't go to office hours, like, which, like, if office hours are a great resource, like, use them, whatever. That's not the point. But the point
it shouldn't be your life.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
The whole point of this guy's TikTok was, like, I'm not consumed by the career track that I want to be on. And there's a bunch of people in the comments that were like, wait, I love you. But there's also a lot of people in the comments that were like, I don't understand how you're doing this. Like, I don't understand how you function. So I think some people just genuinely can't even fathom the idea of, like, enjoying the process.
For sure.
Like, it feels like it's almost like a necessary suffering that you have to go through before you get to your end goal. But, like, you can enjoy the process. It doesn't need to be bad.
And it'll lead to burnout so much quicker if, like, you are so close-minded to doing anything but adding things to your resume and studying and doing all these things, and then the 4 years go by and you graduate, and then you're like, wow, I actually don't have much experiences, and now you're going into med school or PA school, and now you have less time to have those experiences maybe, and then you just realize that, like, you just spent all your time focusing on this one thing where you could have been balancing it. So
yeah, I think it's also just, like, we have to remember, like, going into healthcare means, like, working directly with people. And so you also have to be, like, a human yourself. Like, if you spent your entire 20s studying, pulling all-nighters, going to office hours, doing all this stuff, but, like, you can't have a conversation with a human being because you never, like fostered your social intelligence, like, you're, like, it's honestly, you're going to be, like, just as bad of a doctor as someone who, like, genuinely, like, didn't pay attention at all. Like, you have to be a human being, like to do things, have a personality, don't just be like, I study.
No. Or even, like, seeing your friends who you study with and do all these things with, maybe doing something that's, like, not studying, and then you guys can, like, actually be friends outside of school.
Yes.
That's also, like, a fun aspect of it.
That's like my favorite thing to do. It's, like, study buddies, and I'm like, wait, can we, like, hang out?
Yeah.
After?
And then study. No, and let's talk about it, because, like, genuinely, medicine and healthcare is so, it's, like, inherently, like, so human. Like, it's all it is. It's so human. And it's so vulnerable, even if you go into, like, a healthcare field that isn't necessarily, like, scary. Like, it's still vulnerable to, like, be talking to people that you don't know about their health concerns or, like, their health journey. So I think fostering that social intelligence is so, so important. And if you're, like, judgmental towards people who don't have the exact same lifestyle as you, like, how are you going to deal with a patient that's going through a really difficult time in their life, maybe a patient who isn't in school or is unemployed or something like that, like, will you place the same judgment upon them that you've placed upon your peers? Like, I'd hope not. So I think, like, really going out of your way to interact with people that are different than you instead of surrounding yourself with this pre-health gunner bubble is only going to serve you. Like, it's only going to make you a better provider in the long term. I think that's really important.
And then when you start building those relationships and start seeing it as less of, like, a competitive thing, things become, like, so much more fun. Like, you're excited to study because you're going to see that friend at that library or get that coffee, or, like, you're celebrating after because you both finished an exam or whatever it is. Like, things just become more fun and then easier, and you start, like, succeeding more. I feel like you start getting better grades and things like that.
So now I want to talk a little bit more about going back to this toxic pre-health culture, and do we feel that certain groups, like first-gen students or low-income students, are disproportionately affected by this culture? Yes, and if so, how and why?
Do you want to go? Should I go?
You can go.
Okay. I think 100% that this disproportionately affects, like, first-gen students and, like low-income students as well, just because if you didn't grow up in an environment that provides you with, like, connections or, like, even knowing what you're supposed to do, like, knowing what extracurriculars you need, what letters you need for a certain school, and then you come into an environment that's, like, unwilling to give you advice about those things, it just makes it 10 times harder to do things correctly, 100%. If that makes sense. Like, how am I supposed to find out if nobody in my family has done it and nobody wants to tell me?
Yeah, especially, like, in my family, like, there's not really anyone in healthcare like that, and also neither of my parents graduated from a U.S. college, so, like, they didn't really know what applying to college is like, or even what applying to PA school is like, obviously. or what it's like to study for all these exams or being in extracurriculars or getting a job. And yeah, especially the connections of it too. Like so many of my peers, oh, they know that this doctor and you can shadow them because it's a family friend or whatever. And I like didn't have those connections. So I think that definitely makes you work a little bit harder to create those connections yourself.
Yeah, I think for me it's very similar. Like no one in my family graduated from, like my parents didn't graduate from a U.S. college, and so to me like the college experience is defined from like what my peers have experienced. So I take a lot of advice from like some of our alumni because they've done it, they know it, and so I think when I came to UF as like a freshman and I'm hearing all these seniors talk about how like people are like gatekeeping notes, people are writing wrong information on their notes to hopefully get you on an exam or things like that. I'm like,
That's crazy.
Like, no, actually, like I've heard, I'm not that, I didn't make that up. I've heard of people doing that stuff.
That's so crazy.
Like actually, I think for me, just hearing that, I was like, oh, like is this normal? Like, and that honestly, that took a really big toll on me. Like my freshman year, just I remember being so discouraged. Like I don't know if disillusioned is a word, but like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Of like, is this what being pre-health is? Like, am I gonna be able to like make friends here? Like, is it just like I have to do this all on myself? Like, and so I think that it took a toll on me because I didn't know that. Like, I thought that this was just the entire culture and not just a small fraction of people who are unfortunately a very loud small fraction of people.
Yeah. No, and like going back to what I said about imposter syndrome, it definitely gave me imposter syndrome when I didn't know so many of the things that my peers knew. They're like, oh, well, I already knew this because of my parents and all of this. And I was like, I had no idea that I had to be doing that. Or I had no idea that I had to be looking for this or that. Like, so that definitely gave me imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah. I think also moving beyond this idea of like gatekeeping and nobody telling you what you're supposed to do, this like glorified suffering also disproportionately affects like low income and first gen students. I think especially in the Latina community where there's so much stigma around mental health, like this suffering like genuinely takes a toll on you. Like a lot of people need to go to therapy or like get counseling and like to genuinely manage these things. And I think if you come from a community where those things aren't necessarily normalized, that also makes the navigation of it a lot more difficult. Like I know I struggled a lot with like anxiety my first and second year of college, and like I placed a lot of pressure on myself to perform well. And I think it would have been really helpful to have like some sort of counseling service or just somebody like to help me in my corner, but I didn't necessarily have that, whereas like people from other cultures where that's more normalized maybe wouldn't have that same struggle.
Yeah, going back to that, like 100% I felt that when I had undiagnosed ADHD the first 2 years of my college. It was really difficult because it wasn't something that was talked about in my house at all. And like when I brought it up, they would be like, oh, you don't need medication, or they don't really know what ADHD was. And I was struggling so bad, it got to a point where it got really, really bad that I finally like seeked help and a diagnosis, and I finally got on medication for it. And it was like night and day, and it helped my college so much, and it helped my schooling so much, and that definitely was a struggle, so I get that for sure.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is very real. Like, it genuinely, like, and I think part of that imposter syndrome is because there's not that many, like, Latina providers, and I see a lot, like, I meet a lot of patients who are like, thank God you speak Spanish, like, just things like that. So I think it's like, we just get in our head of like, why isn't there such a high percentage of Latina providers? Is it because like we're not capable of it? And so I think it's just, it very much fosters that imposter syndrome. But say no to imposter syndrome.
No, you belong here. I promise.
You belong here to take up space.
They need us.
I want to end this podcast with one final question, because at the end of the day, like, I love being pre-med. I could not imagine myself going into any field despite this. I don't want this episode to discourage anyone from continuing their pre-health journey. I love being pre-health. I'm sure like we can all agree with that. We're doing it. We love it. We love the ability to one day be able to serve patients. So how have you guys been able to navigate the toxicity of pre-health culture?
I think definitely with the help of LMSA.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug, but like real.
But I feel like it's just a community what?
Yes.
A community that supports each other so much. Like everyone's always telling each other about new opportunities, relating to each other, finding friends. So much of that I literally this was the first organization that I found that really made me feel like, oh, they all want me to succeed, and I am in the right place, and I do belong here. And these are all people that I can see myself in them, and they can see themselves in me, and we relate so much in so many different ways. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that.
I agree for sure. I think finding a really supportive community is the most important thing, which obviously for us has been LMSA. But it's been great having like role models, whether it be LMSA alumni or even like Latina providers who come speak at our events, that show us like not only is it possible to get there, but like we belong there and we can succeed and thrive in these careers. So I think that's been really helpful. And just that community in general, like our WhatsApp chat is crazy with like, my PI needs a researcher, my clinic is hiring, or this club has applications. Like almost my entire like med school application and my resume has been built off of the opportunities of like people sharing things in LMSA, and that like generosity and openness is something that I really appreciate, and I like attribute a lot of my growth and success to. I don't think I would have like grown as much throughout college without like these wonderful people shaping me. And even like outside of that, I think just finding great friends like is really important. I really love friendship. I love friendship, and there's like really, really great people in these spaces, and you just need to find them. Like there's people who want you to succeed, even if it might feel like there aren't at the moment.
We want you to succeed.
We want you to succeed.
Yes,
If nobody wants you to succeed, we want you to succeed, and all of LMSA wants you to succeed.
Yes.
So I think that's definitely just been the most vital part of navigating all of this.
I fully agree, like 100% with you guys. Honestly, I was thinking about it the other day. Like everything that I have gotten at UF has been like connected to the root of LMSA. Like my volunteering, like advice I've gotten on like classes to take, studying, things like that. Like I said, finding that good group of people is very hard to do because, like I said before, that small percentage of the toxic pre-health students are unfortunately a very loud small percentage. But I promise you, like, maybe it won't be the first friend you meet walking into freshman year of college, or if you are transferring into pre-health, maybe it's not the first pre-health org you come to, but I promise you that there are good people here. At the end of the day, being pre-health is a love, unites us by love of wanting to like serve others and be there for people. And I can guarantee you that you will find eventually your people who will support you, cheer you on, be a shoulder to cry on, but also like make sure that you also have like a life outside of school. They'll study with you. They'll also like go out with you. Go to the beach with you.
They'll go to the beach. They'll go bowling. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Oh my gosh.
I think this has been a great conversation.
No, yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, even though I'm old.
No, you are not old.
So young and
Sophia's
youthful.
generally probably like 5 months older than you.
Yeah,
like you're probably older than me.
Alright, well, thank you guys so much. I hope this episode was helpful, and I want to end this episode on the LMSA wants to see you succeed note.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see you at the next episode. Bye, guys.